Tori Kruse. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Please put your comments below, and you can also find me on social media at Miss Tori Kruse. Super excited to be here today, especially with my special guest. I told you a little bit earlier on my Monday morning coffee chats that I was actually interviewing Miss Nebraska USA 2020. So here she is, Megan Swanson, Miss Nebraska USA 2020. I'm really excited to have her on the show today. Megan was actually Miss Nebraska America 2014. Now she's Miss Nebraska USA 2020. So it's really cool to have that twist and a little bit of variety of she's competed at Miss America and at Miss USA. So we'll dive into that a little bit later. Megan is also the CEO and founder of Powerhouse Pageantry. She's a speaker, coach, and just all the things, podcast host. So welcome, Megan. I'm super excited that you're here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Tori. It's an honor.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just dive right in. So you're Miss Nebraska USA, and tell us a little bit about your pageant journey.
Yeah, so I have a really weird journey. I competed in like one pageant when I was younger and happened to get to nationals, and that's actually how I discovered my college. Like pageants have had a weird way of circumventing my life into God's plan for my life, and have always just kind of pointed in the direction of my future, but it was never like an end goal of mine to be a pageant girl, if you will. But I truly believe that pageants are the greatest leadership organization in the world for young women, kind of leadership niche. And I think that they really organically kind of gather future thought leaders and women who are interested in personal development. And I think that's what really drew me to pageantry before I even knew that I was interested in personal development. So I was living in Nashville, going to music school at Belmont, and had a really, really rough first year. And long story short, ended up with an eating disorder that almost, ruined my entire life, and came down to a point of where I realized I needed to fix the internal as much as the external, and couldn't look myself in the eyes and tell myself I was beautiful. Astronomically changed my life, and started to work on myself from then. About a year later, my mom marched me into the kitchen and was kind of helping me reassess my goals. And I saw that the Miss Nebraska before me had just been crowned. I didn't know the difference between USA and America, and just something left in my heart where I knew I was supposed to do it. And so I was like, okay, there's like locals or something, and I got to fly home for one of these, and ended up winning one of the largest locals in Omaha, in Nebraska, and then won Miss Nebraska on my first try. Started my company a year later, and then decided to do it again for Miss USA. So I put my whole reputation on the line and was like, I'm going to be the first person to win both, and I'm going to do it. And here we are. So pageants are just, I've become a huge part of my story and my family's life. And I was very lucky. My sister's actually the current Miss Nebraska, and I'm the current Miss Nebraska USA. So we got to do that at the same time. We're 18 months apart and best friends. So couldn't have planned it, but it's been an amazing year despite being a really hard year.
Wow, God's timing is incredible. That is so cool. I did not know your sister was Miss Nebraska right now too. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations, because that is a huge accomplishment. First of all, Miss Nebraska America and then USA. There's not too many girls who get to experience both of those, and so congratulations. It takes a lot of hard work and dedication to do that.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So when you were Miss Nebraska America in 2014, how old were you then?
21, barely. Yeah.
Okay. So then growing up, going a little bit further back, what were you in sports? Were you in cheer, dance, singing?
So I'm a singer. My parents met in a recording studio 35 years ago. And I always say that we like invented car karaoke as a family before it was cool. And so we were ripping out 5-part harmony in the car since I was 4 years old. I sang in front of 5,000 people when I was 4. My parents stuck me in front of an Easter service and were like, get it done. So that's why I went to school for music, and was raised in a home with 2 pastors. And so just kind of started leading worship when I was 12. And everybody in my family plays a lot of instruments. So I was in show choir and musicals and all those things in high school. And I'm a basketball player as well. So I'm 6 feet tall. I'm the shortest person in my family. My brother's 6'7", my sister's 6'2", and both of their spouses are super tall as well. So I'm the shorty. and knew I didn't want to play basketball in college. And that's a huge part of my story too, actually, because I got really reprimanded for that. And that's where God taught me that I was never called to fit in a box. And I wish I would have known that in high school, but was really into, sports and music and academics. I was a super nerd. So that's a lot of what I did before pageants.
Oh my gosh. I just want to like break down all that because I was a big basketball player too in high school
Cool.
and had an opportunity to go to college to play at a D3 school. And I passed that up too. And just kind of going off of what you just said, it was like, yeah, God did not call us to be in this box our whole life. And so in high school, I feel like there's a lot of girls that go through that though. You don't realize it till for me, it was post college really. And I really discovered that through pageantry. What was that experience like for you to, say no to basketball when you had that opportunity and is that when you pursued music and singing? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a couple offers actually from like Drake, you're from around there, and all around kind of the Midwest. But I just knew that it wasn't what made my heart beat. And I had a really emotionally abusive coach in high school. I was already dealing with a lot of bullying from girls. I didn't have my first best girlfriend that lasted longer than a couple weeks till college, and had a girl who bullied me for 13 years of my life from the time I was 5 till I was 18. And she happened to be the only other senior on the basketball team. And so just some of those external things really made me think that I hated basketball. And I knew that if I would continue to play, I'd have to choose between sports and music because they're both like playing a sport. Music is its own crazy world. And I knew that I would hate the game of basketball if I continued to play. And I didn't want that. I wanted to be able to play noon ball with the guys, which I did, and all throughout college. And I wanted to continue being an athletic person and a healthy person. And I just knew that that would squeeze it right out of me. And so that definitely informed my decision. And then, still ended up walking through an eating disorder and some really tough stuff physically. But so grateful that I went through all of that, and so glad I didn't play basketball. My sister was a 2-time All-American in college. So
Wow.
I watched all of that, and she had some very interesting times actually in Missouri. She played for Evangel, and I'm just very glad I didn't play basketball in college.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it also takes up so much of your college experience. I mean, it defines your college
It
experience
totally
pretty much.
does.
And
Yep.
so to make that decision at 18 years old, it's a big decision.
Mm-hmm.
So I honor and respect you for being so aware, first of all, of yourself at that age that most girls maybe would have taken up that opportunity and then realized later that they now hate the sport because of that decision. So how did you actually become so aware at 18 where you reflected back on the bullying experience, the negative aspects that you've associated with the sport? How did
Mm.
you go from loving the sport, because you had to love it if you were one of the best players on the team to get a scholarship? How did you go from basically loving it, devoting so much of your life to that, to then becoming aware of these negative consequences that it's actually caused?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it was in the moment, but if I'm being completely honest, a lot of it is being 10 years removed from it too, and just reading a lot of personal development books and trying to become as self-aware as I can be. But I naturally am an Enneagram 8, which means I'm a protective challenger. I'm very black and white. I can come off as harsh in my younger ages. And younger years. And so I fully admit that I created stirs in the pot when I didn't need to as a young person. That probably made bullying worse, and probably made, I don't like to be controlled. And so that's why God made me to be an entrepreneur, so
Exactly.
I didn't realize, I didn't know how to turn that into a blessing. I didn't know how to allow myself to live in my lane, which I always tell my girls. I just allowed that to be, a negative inner dialogue of constantly trying to fit in. And even though I went to a high school of 3,000 kids, it was really, really hard. And I think in my heart, I always knew I didn't want to play basketball in college. I was actually the sixth man for most of my college experience, or my high school experience. I did a whole podcast about it, of what that taught me and how I had to fight for a spot. But at the same time, I think I knew that music was where my heart was. And so I put way more effort into that, if I'm being completely honest. So it wasn't like devastating. I mean, I almost quit my senior year because my coach was so abusive, to the point of where he'd call out and be like, okay, we're doing this drill because Megan dropped the ball. Everyone give Megan, a hand clap because this is Megan's fault. And like just totally division, like horrible.
Yeah.
But I think those experiences make you a better leader and a better person in the future. So I think upon, the last 10 years, 11 years, 12 years of reflecting of college or of high school, it's just been like a gradual process of self-awareness, and again made me a better leader, where I'm just like, well, now I know exactly what not to do because all the bad examples that were in my life, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, and it teaches you thick skin too. Just right
Mm-hmm.
there, where you're talking about your coach calling you out. I can remember times where my coach said the same thing, and at that moment, you just want to break down almost. But at the same
Oh,
time,
and I did. I
yeah,
did.
I'm sure. I mean, we're girls, right? We still want it. We still cry, even though we're strong women and leaders. We still cry, and we still have those moments where we
Yeah.
break down.
Yes. I cried several times in practice. And oh my gosh, I have so many stories for days. I was such a wuss back then. But also, I mean, I didn't understand my hormones. I was like, I've been up since 6 a.m. and I got show choir rehearsal after this. Like, back off, bro. You can't even hold
Yeah.
a tune in a bucket, Like, but I'll never forget. I think he came to one of my musicals actually my senior year and told me that I did a good job because I was Belle in Beauty and the Beast. And, we have a big high school, like it's a big deal, all these things. And he came to one of my musicals. So that was kind of the saving grace at the end where I was like, I'll show you, And so like, I don't hate him by any means, anything like that, but he's actually a really cool guy outside of basketball. But like in basketball, he became a totally different person. I feel like I don't know why that is with coaches sometimes, but I'm like, can you just not?
Right. I know. I don't know what happens when they get that, power sometimes.
I know.
I had a volleyball coach like that when I was in high school, and actually I did end up quitting, and I don't quit anything. I mean,
Yeah.
I will stick it out. I don't care if it's my career, a relationship, a sport, whatever it is, I don't quit until the time is done. Like, I give it my all.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you have that sort of coach and that sort of leader above you, it's hard, and it does teach you that thick skin. So I played sports all throughout high school. I was in band in my earlier days, but it was never a passion. Like, it sounds like singing is to you.
Yeah.
But I compared pageantry a lot. Everything I revert back to sports because that's just where I'm a competitive person. I'm sure
Totally.
you are as well. And so when it comes to pageantry, how do you think those skills really helped you? Because in ways it's the same, but also it's a little bit different because pageantry is more individual sport, right? And then sports like basketball is a team sport. So when you lose, when you don't win the title in pageantry, then it's on you. But if you lose a game, it's kind of on the whole, should be on the whole team. How would you translate those skill sets into pageantry to benefit your pageantry career?
Yeah. I think I just have a really strong internalized competitive drive as a human. And I don't know if you can teach that, to be completely honest. I work with girls every day and rewiring their mindsets and growing like the practical side of communication, as well as like, here is what leadership is, right? But at the end of the day, I can't force them to be a self-starter if they're not. I can lead a horse to water, but I can't make it drink. I can teach you your procrastination style. I can teach you your core values. I can teach you your Enneagram type, but you have to make the decision that you want something. And so I think that's where, I don't know. I don't know if I'm sure there are a million things that basketball taught me, but honestly, I think it was a decision within myself that I wanted something and that something mattered enough to me for me to change from the inside out. After I'd walked through an eating disorder, the thought of getting on a stage in a swimsuit, like, are you kidding me? Right? Never having done that in a pageant in my entire life, being 20 years old, like totally new. I mean, I don't even know if I'd ever gotten a spray tan before or whatever, So, but I think when a dream matters the most to you, and that's what I would encourage people too. Because so many people are like, how do I find my purpose? Well, it has to be something that gets you out of bed every day. It has to be something that you're willing to sacrifice for. And that's in the same as relationships, it's in the same as a lot of different things in life. And I think we'll truly find our purpose when we discover what we're passionate about. And that calls for massive imperfect action. It just does. So I feel incredibly like lucky that I found pageants, because I think about if I wouldn't have dared to enter that first one, having no idea what to expect, and then going to Miss Nebraska and now having a company in 45 states that I've grown from $160 in my pocket working at a coffee shop. And I'm like, what if I wouldn't have competed in that first pageant? So yeah, I think it's a decision within self. And I think that it's also honoring and respecting yourself enough to be like, I'm doing this for me. Like, I'm doing this because I want to achieve something. Maybe I want scholarship. Maybe I want to feel beautiful on stage for the first time. Maybe I want to be able to look myself in the mirror and say that I'm proud of myself. Maybe it's not about winning at all. Maybe I want to build better like alpha female friendships. whatever it is, but finding that for somebody is one of the most beautiful things I think that pageantry does for the world. And the world should really thank us, because the pageant girls go on to just do the most incredible things, honestly, with whatever they do. And so that's why I'm just so glad to be a part of it.
I couldn't agree more. It's the best. Going back to your first statement about pageantry, it's the best leadership organization that women can honestly be a part of, especially in their growing years, their youthful years. So you mentioned eating disorder, and I want to touch on that because that is something that is major when it comes to young girls, and especially I think it's more major now than ever because of social media and influencers and the comparison. And let's be real, social media isn't all real life. As much as you try to be authentic and real and vulnerable on social media, people still don't put their entire life on social media. So I want to touch on that a little bit. What kind of eating disorder did you have, and where did that stem from?
Yeah. So I had binge eating disorder, and I discovered that I had it before Instagram was a thing. So unless I was doing my own Google search, it was like anorexia, bulimia, or nothing else exists, right? So I was just gaining weight in college, and was working out with the guys, playing noon ball like 6 days a week. And this is like intense. And then I'd go lift, and I was still gaining weight. And my mind-body connection was so bad that again, kind of an aggressive personality when I was 18, admittedly, like I just didn't know how to translate, like, oh, you're eating because an emotion is happening that you're not properly processing. And that's what binge eating disorder is. That's what obesity is, if we're being completely honest. It's trying to cope emotionally and not, so all of us are born with an emotional filter, right? Emotional intelligence, but they say that you actually only understand about 5 to 10 emotions in your childhood because only 5 to 10 emotions are shown in your household. For some, it could be anger. For some, it's fun and joy and optimism and happiness. And so when I really took a hard look at the fact that I hadn't allowed God into that specific part of my life, I was really easily offended. My mom would say anything about eating or my weight or my clothes, and I'd get angry immediately, right? That should have been a red flag that something was going on emotionally. But when you're 18, you don't know that. And the reason why I believe that I had an eating disorder is partially because my personality. So I'm an Enneagram 8 with a 7 wing. 7s almost unanimously deal with some kind of gluttony, or alcoholism or an eating disorder. If you look at anyone who's a 7 or a 7 wing, they almost always have had one in their life, and it's crazy. And that's because we strive for the adrenaline, all this kind of stuff. That's a whole different conversation. But also, I had carried all these things from the past that I had never dealt with: all the bullying, all the rejection, all the abandonment, all the feeling lonely, moving completely away, 12 hours from home, not knowing anybody. And I didn't know how to cope with those things. So I really had to expand my emotional filter, to where that filter was a lot bigger for the amount of emotions that were now coming through unprocessed, and learning how to process them. And so that's just a word for anybody who might be struggling with an eating disorder, is really expanding our emotional filter and our self-talk, and our ability to really connect that mind-body connection could quite literally save your life.
How can you connect that mind and body in about 30 seconds? What's the best tip you have for that?
Honestly, it's taking time to slow down. There's a time for fast thoughts and there's a time for slow thoughts. And a lot of people don't like to journal. I used to be one of them. But just finding, whether it's a morning routine or a nightly routine, or prayer, meditation, something like that is just so incredibly important to connect with yourself, because you have to break the barrier of being fearful of your own thoughts in the first place. So finding a way to slow down your thoughts is definitely what I would say.
Amazing. So one of the things that I was actually just talking about this morning in my Facebook group, it's Breakthrough Time, is overcoming in 2021. Because in 2020, we've had so many tough obstacles and challenges. Some people have had a blessed year. Hopefully a lot of good things have happened in some people's lives. But there's been heartache and just emotional imbalance, right? I mean, this year, I think of any year, there has been so many ups and downs. We felt every single emotion that there possibly could be. So what is your best advice for people to overcome in 2021, to take a look back at 2020, and just look at how they handled situations, but then come out better for the new year?
Yeah. Well, I think first and foremost, especially for the achiever types, which are probably the people who are going to listen to this,
Yeah.
is write down the things that you have done. So often we keep a gratitude journal, which is great, but I always encourage my girls to keep a I did this journal. So whether that was you lost 1 pound, or whether it was you consistently went on a walk for 5 days in a row, or whether it was you found that special friend that you were going to connect with and process your emotions with once a week, like whatever you've done, even if it doesn't matter to anyone else in the entire world, having a list of the things that you've accomplished, that's the first area the devil tries to mess with us in our mind, is to remind us of our past and only the things that we've done wrong. And so in order to catapult our mindset and catapult ourselves into the next season, we have to remember the good things that God's done through us, even in the midst of trials. And then I think step 2 of that is saying, okay, well, if I can do all these things through literally a hell of a year, then what can I do next year? Right? That can kind of unlock our brain to even have the courage to set goals again. Because I think a lot of people had goals this year, right? And it was like, middle finger to that, to be completely honest. That's what it was like. It was just like, well, that's cute, right? And we had to adapt and we had to overcome. But there are so many skills that we can take from this difficult season and catapult us up to that next season, because how you end one season is how you start the next. So we can't just be like, shut the door like December 31st, right? Because nothing inherently changes just because the sun comes up tomorrow. And so I think being really intentional about the fact that we create our success and we create the life that we want, and we're the prophet of our own life, and you're in control of your thoughts, emotions, actions, and the results that you get. You're only not in control of the situation handed to you. And just recognizing that, like owning that fact. And I think just putting your boots on every day and being like, I own my life. I'm the CEO of my life. We've heard that on Instagram a million times, but you really are. So just determine in your heart 100% that you're not going to allow next year to be, like this year. Unless this year was great, then build off that. Awesome. But I think owning that and taking the offensive role rather than the defensive role again, and really allowing the past to be the past, is really going to help people for 2021.
Yes. So good. So good. Amazing advice. I wish you could just repeat all of that over just so they can hear it again. But ladies, go back and listen to that 3-4 times. That was so good. So this series that I'm doing is called Crownversations, right? So I'm interviewing the Miss USA 2020 title holders, because there's so many girls that I work with that are competing in pageants here this spring, and they're just lost, where they're lost in the sense of they don't know what it's going to be like. Their pageant keeps getting moved. It's so much uncertainty in 2021. And so for those pageant girls, explain a little bit about your Miss USA experience, which I'm sure was pretty unique. And then what's your best advice for girls who are competing in this 2021 season?
Yeah. First of all, for the 2021 season, your state pageants won't really change that much. The date might change. Even some of your directors I know are changing. But remember, like, I think just focusing on your why, which we've heard a million times, right? But like really focusing on like, why are you doing this? Has Corona changed why you're doing this? Has Corona changed your mission? Has Corona changed your outlook on life? Has it changed your values? Has it changed your relationship status? There's so many different things that you bring to the table, that, let's say your pageant was pushed back 5 months. Well, there's a lot of growth that's going to happen in the next 5 months. And that's an opportunity for you to bring an even better package to the table that you're wildly passionate about, and that you can brand and you can market and you can help more people. You can get more qualifications under your belt, and treat it as something that's exciting rather than just daunting. Number 2, don't be afraid to ask questions. I think a lot of girls sometimes are really weary, like, oh, I'm going to look like the weird girl if I ask questions. I'm like, no. Last year was the first year I competed. I literally, first thing I did, called up Lexi and I was like, do you live in Lincoln? Who are you? I don't know what I'm doing. Can we get coffee? I'll pay for your coffee. Can we talk for an hour? And it was wonderful. And I learned so much in 1 hour, just being courageous enough to reach out to the previous queen. DM other girls on Instagram, DM me, DM, Tori, whoever it is. And we'd be happy to answer some of your questions. We have no clue what the national competition is going to look like, but state, most of the competitions are just 1 day rather than 2 now, or rather than a week. So there's nothing you can't handle. You got it. And then Miss USA was interesting. I mean, I was telling Tori before the podcast started that I met some of the most incredible friends in the world, and national competitions are just different. And I think what I always tell people is go in your state first, and then we'll have the conversation about nationals, because there's not a reason to say the good or the bad or the whatever until you kind of get there, because your mindset needs to be locked in on why do I love my state? Why do I want to represent my state? Why do I love the people of my state? And then I always say, we'll get there when we get there. And your right coach or mentor, whoever you work with, will help you get to the national level. So yeah, we had to COVID test every other day. We had to wear masks. We had to stay 6 feet apart. I didn't get to meet half the girls in Miss USA, which sucks, right? But that's out of my control. And at the end of the day, what you can't control, it's not worth your headspace. And I walked out with probably 15 of the best friends of my entire life. And as I grow older and as my life continues to change beyond pageantry, that's going to be a heck of a lot more valuable than just a placement or just how Miss USA was.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And pageantry, it's just a stepping stone, right? And we were talking off camera a little bit about that too. And I love the fact that you had your business, Powerhouse Pageantry, prior to Miss USA, because that's something that I preach to my girls. It's just, let's figure out your purpose, put pageantry aside. I don't care. Like, sure, you might be working with me because you want to win your pageant, but put that aside, because you need to figure out what your purpose is, what you desire to do in life, just like you did with Powerhouse Pageantry. And then how can we use pageantry as just a stepping stone to enhance your calling? And so I absolutely love that about you, and probably why I resonate with you so much. Not only because we live like 30 minutes apart as, growing up. But
yeah, I still can't believe that. That's wild.
I know, it's crazy. But beside that, I love your mindset and how you're using your calling in life, your God-given calling, to help other women too. And you view pageantry as that stepping stone to where you're going in life. So I feel sorry for you girls, for the 2020 girls that had to, go to Miss USA and have that different experience. But for some reason, God planned it that way. And for some reason, you were that girl who was the 2020 representative at Miss USA. And who knows, who knows what that reason is. And I'm sure down the road, we'll all find out. But you were there. And I think that's such an amazing accomplishment, no matter what. And I honor you for that. So wrapping up here, I just wanted to touch a little bit more on your Powerhouse Pageantry. What do you do? How can girls contact you? Who do you work with? All of those things.
Yes. Thank you so much. So Powerhouse Pageantry has been in existence for almost 5 years. We will be 5 on June 2nd of next year. And thank you. And really, it was, I never even knew what an entrepreneur was till I was 23. I had never even literally couldn't tell you the definition of the word. I felt like God was calling me to move home from Nashville when I was 23 after I finished my senior year at Belmont. And I was working at a coffee shop and started my company like 30 days later. So we help women specifically in interview coaching. So I don't like the term pageant coach. I think it has a negative connotation. I'm a life transformation coach. So I help you rewire your toxic mindsets, grow in your leadership, and communicate well. And it's based off my own life experience and about 7 years of research and a lot of trial and error with girls all over the world. So we have girls in 45 states, but we're very, very selective about who we work with. Everyone goes through an application process. Everyone goes through a 45-minute interview with myself. And I believe that we have some of the best programs in the world. And I've worked super hard. I've tried to just create programs that I wish would have existed when I was competing. And but at the heart of it all, just to get to be a part of people's stories and to see what they continue to do after pageantry. I've always known that I was called to influence women. Never thought I'd be doing what I was doing now. But I just think that pageant girls are the coolest girls in the world. So I just feel honored that I get to be a micro part of their journey. And if we can help be a stepping stone to make all their dreams come true, that's just like the most incredible thing. And helping girls do that without losing their authenticity and their core values and their heart in the process is really, really important to me and a core value of mine. So that's Powerhouse.
Love it. I love it, girl. Any way I can help support you in that, I'm there for it. My business, Highlights and Heels and Powerhouse, are pretty darn similar in that whole entire mission and concept. And when you said authenticity, that's where I'm like, my people.
Yeah,
because that's the biggest part, is to bring out that authenticity. I don't know if it's the media or TV shows or whatever pageantry has brought into the world. Like when somebody says pageantry, the first word they think of is not authentic. And so to have that mission and one of your core values to keep that authenticity in the girls who are competing in pageants and really change that whole stigma of pageantry is just a huge driver for me too. So I absolutely love that you're doing that, and you're doing awesome work. So congratulations on all your successes, and any way I can help support you, girl, I'm behind you 100%. So congratulations. And thanks for being a guest on the show today. This has been so awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. And literally any way I can help you too. Like just text me anytime.
Awesome, girl. I love it. I love the like-mindedness and partnerships. That's how we all rise.
Yep.
So, well, thank you again and have an awesome, awesome rest of your day and Happy New Year.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Also, please follow me on social media at Miss Tori Kruse. Until next time, be unstoppable.